Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and get started with a welcome and introductions. While more people are still joining us online, I'm going to leave that poll open so that we can capture everybody's role in relation to District 87. So good evening, everyone. My name is Terry Bresnahan. I'm the superintendent of District 87, and we are thrilled to be with you this evening to talk about our plans for the new Sunnyside and MacArthur schools. So tonight is an opportunity to showcase all the hard work that our community groups have been working on and the hard work of our architects and our construction management team for really working with us and supporting us through this monumental undertaking to really transform the teaching and learning spaces for our students. So as many of you are aware, last spring, which seems like a very, very long time ago, a referendum was successfully passed in District 87, and that is what is allowing us to move forward with dreaming big for what our schools are going to look like in the future. And as part of that referendum that passed, we have some pretty major changes that are going to be taking place, particularly with Sunnyside and MacArthur. And that is going to involve building two brand new schools that are going to be jointly connected for one large facility. And tonight is going to be your first opportunity to really see the design phase and some of the potential spaces on the interior and exterior of what that will look like for our community. So I want to start by thanking first and foremost our parents and our community at large for this gift, this opportunity to be allowed to do this. This is, as I said, a monumental undertaking, and it really reflects the value that all of you have placed in our schools as an essential part of your District 87 community and the community at large. So thank you so much to our community for that. I would also like to thank all of the district staff and administration who has participated in many, many countless hours of meetings and planning to help bring this to fruition. I want to thank our core planning group who has been working really since the start of the summer to make sure that we were on pace and on target to deliver the schools that we promised as part of the referendum. I want to in particular thank a couple of our family members, our parents out there who have really supported this work. Mrs. Wicks, I see she has joined us online, and I'm not sure if Miss Davis is on yet, but they have both played a really essential role in being part of our core planning team to give input from the community perspective. I want to thank many of our teachers from Sunnyside and MacArthur who have been part of focus groups and the core planning team to really ensure that whatever spaces we do create really meet the needs of our students to make it the best educational environment for them. And with that, I want to lastly thank our architects, Wold architects who are with us this evening. We have Jesslyn Kelly, we have Fred Schuster, we have Dan Critta. Let's see, who else am I missing? I think that is our Wold team with us tonight. So we are very excited to be working with experts in this field who can really bring us some great ideas of what is out there and to really allow us to dream big for our students in District 87. So also with us on our panel tonight, we have two people who have been absolutely essential in this work as well. We have Mr. Dale White, our Director of Facilities and Transportation, and then Miss Laura Vince, who is our Assistant Superintendent for Business Services. And really, it has been this rock star team that's helped make all of this come to light. So we're very excited to share this with you tonight. As we go through the presentation from Wold, there is a Q&A button on your screens for Zoom. So if you have questions along the way, please feel free to submit them in using the Q&A feature, and we will have time at the end of the presentation to answer them. Hopefully, our many questions will be answered through the presentation, but we will definitely save time at the end for a live answering of questions that you all submit. Just an update on our poll, we currently have 5 parents and guardians with us and 24 staff members. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Jesslyn Kelly from Wold Architects to begin our presentation. And I'm going to stop sharing so that you can have the screen.
Awesome. Thank you, Terry. Thank you to everyone for joining the update this evening. As Dr. Bressingham mentioned, I am Jesselyn Kelly. I'm one of the architects on this project. I just wanted to go over what we have planned to show you this evening. Really just a broad update for all of you. Look at what the new site plan will look like, including traffic flow, where the building is going to be located, looking at building concepts and how we really got to the building organization we're at, looking at the building plan, and then looking at interior and exterior images and materials. If Gilbane's able to join us, we're also going to talk a little bit about construction logistics. So just wanted to give a brief overview of where we're at, and then I will pass it over to Dan Critta to talk about the site.
Thanks, Jesselyn. Thanks, everybody. We are thrilled to be here. And I just want to mention and thank the core planning group as well. That's a group of individuals have been involved with very robust conversations about what's important and what are the priorities as we develop this property. And where we are in the design process right now is what we call the end of design development. We're kind of in that middle point where we're moving towards more realistic development of the building and construction documents, so this project can be bid here in the spring. So quickly, just an overview of the existing site. It looks probably familiar. The 3 ball fields are in the center, and that's really the area that was always proposed to have the new construction, because we are limited from the existing structures. That's our opportunity to basically place the new facility, the 2 new schools. So familiar territory here, and then we'll show you what's developing in the next slide. So you can see the footprint of the building is landed pretty much right center of the site. The district office is to the right. There's no changes planned for that facility. And then you'll see that we're introducing a restricted access drive on the west edge of the site. That is the top of this drawing. North is to the right side. So what that access drive will offer is really a great separation of bus traffic and car traffic. So that'll be dedicated towards pickup and drop off of parent traffic coming into the site in the morning and afternoon. So you'll see along that parking or that drive line, there's quite a bit of room for car queuing to bring that activity off of the street. And then they'll wrap around and pick and drop off at 2 exits and entrances at the back of the building, or the west side of the building. That one entrance will be dedicated to the MacArthur side, and the other entrance will be dedicated to the SUNNYSIDE portion of the building. There's also a staff parking lot that will gain access from the McDermott Drive entrance, and that road will be, or drive will be able to be restricted by gates. So on off hours or times that you don't want through traffic, certainly is able to control that by gating the length of that drive. Jesselyn just pointed out where those locations would be. To the east side of the site, which we're kind of labeling the front of the building, you'll see bus traffic. That'll be the bus pickup and drop off zone, and that looks familiar because that's actually the edge of the current parking area that exists along Wolf Road. We are maintaining the current exit point or curb cut, as we call it, that'll take you onto Wolf Road. So that'll generally be a one-way direction bus drop off, as well as some visitor parking. There'll be some direct access, close proximity visitor parking to the main entrance of the building, which Jesselyn's pointing at right now. And then to the left, and very important factor that came up in our core planning group discussions, is allowing some buffer from St. Charles Road. And we looked at the parking lot actually serving as that buffer. So the activity and the busyness of St. Charles Road is cushioned a little bit from being the kids on the site. So the parking lot then will be the main parking lot for the building, will be along St. Charles Road with access off of St. Charles Road, and then one-way traffic through the site exiting onto Wolf Road. So that will be where primary event parking is, some staff parking, but just general parking for the school. And then sandwiched between the parking lot and the school, then closer to the building for student access, are the play fields, as well as a playground area that is directly off of the SUNNYSIDE portion of the building. And we'll talk a little bit about how this building is divided and compartmentalized, because it really is two schools coming together to share some common space in the middle, but it's driven by really two separate entities. So that's a brief overview of the site. You can see that in a more of a three-dimensional model, how the building is kind of placed or sited in the site, with the St. Charles Road to the left and McDermott to the far right. And the administration building is the white box you see, just for orientation.
So moving into how we kind of came to this concept of how we organize the building, we were talking with the planning committee and got a lot of feedback about the excitement that train travel, both historically and now, can generate in terms of what it can do as far as opportunities and adventure. So we really talked about things like connecting community as both a core value for the district and for exemplifying what we want this building to do, creating access to what we consider an active core. And that'll be a little bit more apparent as we get into the plans, but taking a look at how the community can use the space safely after hours. And then really the idea that there's limitless opportunities to explore. So if you can travel anywhere, what does that look like, and what does that start to mean in terms of a built environment for your young students in their education? And then really looking at District 87, Berkeley 87 as a destination, a place where the community wants to come to and can identify as their own. So in part of that concept, we took the logo for District 87 and identified the MacArthur and the Sunnyside train lines. These highlight where students will travel in their education journey throughout any given day. So if you were to take the concept of commuting, for example, and to turn it into something a little bit more exciting, in the center ring, you have areas like the cafeteria and multi-purpose space, the gym and the media center. Those things are things that actually can shift to off hours use to be used by community space. So those really live inside that core, that active hub. And then taking that third train line as the community piece, we've highlighted it in blue. Really, they just have access to those spaces. And once you get outside that ring, it's where you get to your exploratory classes and your grade level centers. So taking a look at that as kind of a broad concept organization, we really moved into what does that look like when we separate the building. So we, through the core planning group, we noted and understand that it is very important to the community to keep two separate identities for the school. So while they are under one roof, they have two very separate spaces, and really looking at how we can manage where they interact at all. So if you look at this blue line in the center, that is your main entry. And from there, the buildings separate. To the right, you have MacArthur identified in red, and to the left, you have Sunnyside identified in yellow. And where we have blue, they are assigned to a school, but those are usually areas that are used after hours. So taking a look at, there's one common entry from the bus standpoint, but then you note, as Dan mentioned, there's these two separate entrances for car drop off, so that we're really able to control how students mix and interact, if at all, during the day. Where we see them meet in the middle here is actually the cafeteria space, and we'll get into that a little bit, but creating opportunities for community blending rather than necessarily a day-to-day blending of students. So really taking that to heart even one step further, we applied that transit map concept. And as you go into the front door, the only lines that cross are the blue lines with the red or the yellow. The red and the yellow don't cross, and that it has been intentional from the start. We got really good feedback and directives from our committee to identify how that works through the school. Something else that was really important was creating sort of a sense of difference of space. So as you get farther along those train lines, you start to feel more and more like you're in your own individual school, which allows students who are traveling, who are graduating or getting promoted from 5th grade to 6th grade, have a little bit of a difference and sense of space. So really taking a look at the organization, we have it color-coded by space type, but something that was also important was creating this sense of a grade level focus. So on the left, we still have Sunnyside, and the right is MacArthur, but being able to cluster full grades together at a given time allowed us a lot of different opportunities. So when you see up in this back wing, there's a light orange band that connects all of those classrooms. That's actually a flexible learning environment. So because we were able to cluster every grade to be independent on its own and together, we have the opportunity to open up those classroom walls and blend into that flexible space, giving students a little bit more free space, allowing for a little bit more flexibility in curriculum if you've got students that want, or teachers that want to teach together, or students in small group instruction that would benefit from meeting between classes. So really creating that sense of identity in each grade level as well as part of each school. Then taking a look at the idea that these light green spaces are actually your exploratory classes, your media center, music, art, STEM, and technology for the middle school, and then also your band and music for the middle school, but taking a look at those as their own suite. So we had the opportunity to create that team teaching and that co-curricular environment here, and so we really capitalized on that. Then taking a look at this light blue area, those are what we're considering our active hub or our active core. So looking at the gym space, they're independent for each school, but they're off of those main thoroughfares, those main hallways for after hours use, located right next to those back entry doors and right off the main corridor from that front entry. And then taking a look at opportunities for that cafeteria space to open in the event that there is a larger event going on in the school. So we have a platform or a semi-stage area here in order to fulfill some bigger needs. We do have this operable wall in the center, and you'll see that in some of the imaging, but really taking advantage of, there is this openness and there is this ability to create a true community space and making sure it still functions well for day-to-day use, since that will be the primary function. Then the other piece of that is, with all of this openness comes the need for security. So as part of the organization, we talked about locking down each classroom pod, and that includes exploratory pods, to be able to close in on themselves and be kind of their own entity. This will allow after hours use to really be separate from any of the academic spaces. That way you can have people have access to the building and not have access to either your sensitive materials or your classrooms, and really be able to control that from an after hours or community use standpoint. This is also one of those areas where using the one main entry and having two separate main offices allows for a little bit of that synthesis of, if you've got a parent that's coming for a student in each school, they go in one door, but they have two places that they can reach out to and get the appropriate staff right away. That's something that was very important to carry through, and we got some great input from the group to help us organize with that. So this is just the main level. Just a quick look at the upper level. It's just the same classroom pods for each additional grade level. So that is really the big piece. We're able to create a larger volume over the media center, the cafeteria, and use those wings as classroom space. So jumping in and taking a look, this is actually the first image you would have seen in our presentation today. We really took the concept of that community space and that transit, graphic transit map, and started to apply it. There's a way to create a sense of movement and a little bit of playfulness and creativity as you get through the school. You know, we want students to be excited about where they come into school. So your main entry and your lobby should really start to foster some of that warmth and excitement. And then really taking that to the adventure of the train line can take you anywhere. So that way you're able to say, you know, your younger students follow the yellow lines and you'll make it to your classrooms. Same for MacArthur students on the red. So really taking that in and creating that sense of adventure as you wander through the spaces. Really wanting to capitalize on some of that warmth, that inviting area, bringing in some of those warm wood tones. You know, we really talked a lot about destination. District 87 is a destination, and what parts of schools are destination for students and for community use. So for students, it's your lunchroom and your classroom. It's the places where you go and you gather, either with your classmates or with your friends from other classes. So really taking that warmth and highlighting it in areas where you want the primary destination to be. So this is your main entry view. This is a view looking solely at the Sunnyside cafeteria portion. So we're standing at that operable wall and looking out. The other piece of this was creating multifunctional and flexible spaces. So you'll see in the background, we have kind of a grander learning stair that provides the opportunity for presentation space, for you know, a dramatic reading area, just a little bit more versatility and more than just a lunchroom. So really capitalizing on that, making sure that we get natural light in to the space. We know it is a little bit landlocked, so getting some of that daylight in to keep that environment warm and welcome and inviting. And then taking a look, this is in the same spot, but turned around for MacArthur, looking at that stage platform space, identifying what that really wants to work as, and being a flexible environment for use during lunch periods, for casual presentation, as well as band concerts and any sort of assembly space. So this will also function as your assembly space, and having that flexibility really lends itself well to that. And then if you can see a little bit on the floor, the connecting feature of these two rooms is that graphic transit concept. And we see that in a couple of areas play out, but it's just a little bit more playful. You have students going in all sorts of directions. So capitalizing on that movement and highlighting that in some of the finished features. Taking a look at one of those center areas for a classroom pod. So this is actually Sunnyside. And this is an example of what it looks like to have all those classrooms open up into that center space. You have flexible furniture, you have different activities that can happen there. You have presentation spaces along the wall that really allow for students to grow into any space that they need to, depending on curriculum. So taking a look at how those walls open up into that space and really create a blended grade level environment, if ever that's needed or useful, but then also allowing for that supervision aspect. So making sure that if you're sending students into a center space, you have eyes on them all the time. And that's something that was really critical to the core planning group as well. So really taking a look and highlighting movement as much as possible in this space. This is meant to be a little bit more active, but then over those classrooms, we have that warmth and that wood to highlight the destination, which is really your classroom zone. But taking a look at Sunnyside, we're going to flip to the MacArthur version. So really the difference here is how we start to look at furniture and how we start to look at movement in this space. Students are a little bit older, they can make a little bit different decisions in terms of how they want to learn. So a few more group activity tables, a little bit more mature soft seating. And we're going to continue to talk through some furniture decisions, but this is some of the feedback we got so far in our conversations. And then just subtle changes, colors, color palettes shifting to be a little bit more mature, a little bit less whimsical, and a little bit moving into the direction of high school maturity. And then taking a look at just subtle changes in the ceiling. Something as simple as that, just to highlight that students will be crossing all over this environment to get from one class to another, and really playing up that sense of adventure and movement through the space. This is a sample classroom. At Sunnyside, they will have cubbies inside their classrooms closed off to make sure that, you know, students' belongings are not always visible to them, but at least then they're within their classrooms, and it allows for some of that more flexible environment. And then subtle changes at MacArthur, again, similar in concept, just mature finish adjustments. And then a quick peek into a typical media center. So each school has their own media center. This is in particular Sunnyside, but looking at how that media center is really a blended environment for all of those exploratory spaces and really allowing it to be all encompassing. We're seeing a lot of that in media centers trending moving forward. So taking a look at how we can keep that open to the whole school. So this is just a little bit of our sample inspiration. So when we come through with a concept, we like to look for literal translations, but we really wanted to make sure that we're respecting the fact that this is a school and we want to create a nice, warm, welcoming environment. So the train station inspiration image you see is just that, it's inspiration. So taking some of those warm wood tones, some of the exposed structure adds a little bit of movement and excitement in a space, and then really bringing in as much daylight as possible. But you'll see the warm wood accents in the ceiling, the movement in the flooring patterns, and then really representing, starting to represent some of the existing finishes in the district and really playing off of that to make sure that we have a classic and more timeless design moving forward. And then moving into some of the playfulness. So this is, like I said, we look at a transit map concept to highlight that sense of adventure and limitlessness. So looking at that applied in finishes and color, and how do we keep the learning environment exciting for everyone. So, and then looking at how we can translate some of these principles to the exterior imaging. So I'm going to pass it back over to Dan, but it's really about making sure that we're able to translate what's the excitement that's happening on the interior appropriately to the exterior.
Thank you. So in concert with the palette that Jesselyn was talking about and borrowing some of those cues from that kind of transit hub or train station feel, we also want to be sensitive to the environment around this, the neighborhood around this, the site here. So looking at some of the warm brick tones in the neighborhood and taking cues from that palette is also important. So this building feels like it fits in the neighborhood, but also introducing a little splash of color and making sure that we're not making something that is timeless, but we don't want it to be boring either. We want it to have a little bit of zest and also be memorable. One of the things that the planning group had talked to us about, and we became a criteria early on, is to make sure that the building had a signature feel to it. So it felt like it was a Berkeley building, that we weren't straying so far in the look of this building that it didn't feel like it belonged to the family buildings for Berkeley 87. If you look at the front entrance, you'll see some of those warm tones and those brick palettes, but they're also broken down, and we want to bring a scale to this that's very human. It's a very long, stretching building across the front. So compartmentalizing that and kind of piecemealing that is helping it break it down for that pedestrian level as you walk up and walk by the building. But we also want to create a sense of focus, so that beacon or that entry point then can be lit up at night. It'll be very identifiable from St. Charles Road as you come down Wolf Road. You'll know where the entrance is. Then as we looked at how else can we create those splashes of excitement, we looked at the exploratory spaces, and you'll see to the right, also to the right, that's the music suite, the first area where you see some of those red sunshades that are starting to be introduced. It's again to enliven that space, bring extra daylight in there, and make it look different than the other parts of the building. So the office areas that flank the entry that are primarily staff spaces, and then the classroom areas, which you see to the right, have a very traditional feel to it, but it's broken up or punctuated with some of these special treatments that give those more unique spaces like a STEM lab or a music suite a little bit different feel, a little different life to it. So this is the side looking at the right side. That would be looking at the MacArthur side of the building. And then we're wrapping around that side. So we're standing basically right at the end of the administration building now, looking back at the building. So you'll see on the end, on the corner there, that is the science lab stacked over the art room space. Lots of daylight, lots of views in and out of those spaces. And then there's a stairwell that connects everything from top to bottom. And then the space to the right of that stairwell is that learning common space that Justin was talking about. So we're bringing a lot of daylight into that space. So where those extended learning environments are and the different types of furnitures in between the classrooms, we're trying to move as much daylight in that space as possible so it feels very activated. You'll see the second wing that has a similar feel. That would be the west learning or classroom cluster towards the west edge of the building. We're wrapping around now to the Sunnyside portion of the building. A similar feel with a little different interaction of different color. And we're being very select about that color. It's something that we had some great feedback from our planning committee. We've toned things down a little bit, but we're also want to make sure that it's timeless and it's not trendy. But it does signify that there's a difference here. There's two buildings that have their own kind of identity as you approach the building or use the site. So these are the two wings. You'll see the ends of the two Sunnyside wings. As you look at this, that'd be facing from the play areas or from St. Charles Road. That's the view that you would see. Now you wrap around where that car drive access is, the parent drop-off zone. We have two entrances. This is showing the Sunnyside entrance specifically, but more classroom space. Then you have those larger masses of the brick, the gymnasium and some of the back function areas. Justin's pointing at one of the gymnasiums. That's a gymnasium that's more dedicated towards the MacArthur side of the building. And that'll actually serve as a storm shelter for the entire facility as well.
I see that Tom Leonard has joined from the construction management team, Gilbane. I'll toss it over to him to talk through some of the site logistics.
Thanks, Jessalyn, and I apologize for being late. We had a little Comcast issue today, and but I did make it. As you can see, this is a footprint or a site utilization plan, what we call for the construction of the project. In the middle, excuse me, you can see the what we call the rough footprint of the building mirrors just what Jessalyn Dan had presented as far as the shape of the building as it sits on the site. And from this site plan, you can see we've got Wolf Road up on top on the north side, bordered by St. Charles on the right and McDermott on the left. What we're conveying here is how we plan to utilize the site during construction of Sunnyside MacArthur. And you can see the red X'd lined fence, the construction fence around the site that we're showing there. All the way around all four sides of the site. And in the front there, we've got two gates that we will be using for egress, ingress out of the construction site during construction. And we've got the parking spaces there shown as they exist right now in that long parking lot in front of the district offices in front of MacArthur now. The purple or violet ones that we show there belong to the district, and as the yellow note says up there, that staff parking in that area will remain open through the 2021 school year. And then we'll take some of the ones there in the orange, kind of in the middle of that parking lot, for construction parking. We're working with the district, the village, and some of the neighbors to look to see if we can locate additional off-site parking for the tradesmen during the construction of the building. So that's something that we're still working on right now. The construction access road you can see then down there at the bottom of the site, we call it our two-way construction traffic. We show that coming out of a main construction gate, our primary construction gate, you can see there on McDermott. That'll be locked continuously when the project is not in construction, evenings, weekends. Gilbane will have the key to that, and we will maintain security of that gate at all times. And you can see that we've got the one-way construction traffic going to the right of that temporary construction road, but that we do show that that gate there at the end of that run is a restricted use construction gate. We're doing that to control parking, to maintain the parking, I should say, for the district throughout the construction. So that'll just be used on an as-needed basis. And of course, that will be coordinated with the school district. Just to the right of that, you can see in the yellow that we've got the staff parking there shown. And we're going to have to kind of move that around when we construct the underground storm detention system that we're going to start out with the beginning of the project. We'll probably have to push that construction fence out a little bit. We're going to take some of the parking spaces you can see there now, or you can't see, I'm sorry, unless you can see through the green shaded area. There are spaces there. We'll probably have to blow away, so to speak, during the construction of the detention system. Once we get that in place, then we're going to slide that construction fence there in the red back over to the left and try and return those spaces then to the district. But as I said, and as it shows in the yellow shaded area there, those will be in place for the district throughout the end of the May of 21 until school is out, I think in early June. And then we show some in the purple violet shaded area there just to the right. We've got some potential staff parking. We're still coordinating that with the district to see how that will work out. So we're trying to make sure that we're really flexible in that back area there. We've got a lot going on there. It's kind of a pinch point, as you can see, with that chute coming down between the new building and then MacArthur with the red arrow as it empties out into this big open space there where we're going to be working, where we still have to maintain parking for the district. We've got also some laydown areas there, and those will be flexible. We've got two located right now where we think they're going to best serve the project, and those will probably have to remain flexible too as we continue construction here. You can see over there on the left side of the site where we've put our Gilbane trailer right adjacent to where the district's garage is. And that's what we're going to have our on-site project manager, superintendent, engineers. And we've got it located there right by the primary construction gate so that we can control traffic in and out of the site, who enters the site, and keep an eye on any visitors. Any visitors that come into the site are required to come into our trailer, sign in, and then adhere to all of our safety practices, procedures as far as personal protective equipment, PPE as we call it, and make sure that everyone is safe that is entering and on site at all times. And then in the red, just a little bit around the corner from us, we show some red containers. Those are like shipping freight containers where trades will store any material that they've got that they're going to use on site. We show one trade contractor's office trailer there, but most of the deliveries that we're going to be receiving, we're going to be coordinate with the contractors because we're going to have to probably utilize a just-in-time delivery system just because we don't have a whole lot of on-site storage and it's going to be limited. And the last thing that I haven't touched on up there, the upper part of the screen to the top on the other side of Wolf Road, is we've got a note up there that we're looking also potentially there is some parking that may be available or a field that may be available by the Public Works building that we may be able to utilize for some parking. We would probably take it, make it a temporary gravel stoned road, utilize it for parking. Then when the project's over, we would restore the grass area to what it was before we utilized it. Construction dates down there too. Now we've got the bottom there, you can see under the SUNNYSIDE MacArthur milestone schedule dates. we show our phased bidding for the beginning with that retention to start bidding in April, take bids, and then we will plan to start that retention system in May, middle May. I think we show probably May 10th is when we want to start that retention system. And we want that to be in place before we start the building construction. So a good start on May 10th will give us 2 months roughly to get that all in place. And then we begin the building construction on July 13th. And then we show our substantial completion date for the Sunnyside MacArthur building itself, November 2nd of 2022. And that also includes, though, completing punch list work, commissioning of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems. So all of that is complete by then. And then we will also show that last date that we've got there, I think is district move-in that starts December 19th of 2022. And then district move-in completes on January 2nd of 2023. So that's pretty much it right now in a nutshell. Main project milestone dates, and then our site utilization plan is how we plan to use the site during construction. We've also tried to be really sensitive to traffic flow right now that you guys have established there with drop-offs with buses. And so we're trying to keep that flow as much as possible, keep the fence in place during construction, and then control the site and make sure that the existing parent drop-offs and school bus routes and traffic flow is not impacted as much as we possibly can. And of course, safety of the students, staff, faculty is a primary concern. And we may be putting up some other construction barriers. You can see there in the orange at the top of the parking lot there, adjacent to where we've got the orange parking and we've got the 2 new construction gates in red. Those, I guess I would call them east-west orange lines, are going to be fences, barriers that we'll put up there to keep any construction traffic within that envelope, that space there between those 2 gates. And that's paramount to making sure that we keep construction traffic away from everything else as much as we absolutely can. And that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions about that on that utilization plan? No? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I see a couple questions that are in our Q&A. Thank you very much to our WOLD team and Tom for joining us from Gilbane. If you have additional questions, please go ahead and submit them on the Q&A feature, and we can have our experts in the room answer those right now. So one of the first questions that we got was, will the cafeteria be able to hold all students from both schools at one time for assemblies? Jesslyn, I know you mentioned that the cafeterias will definitely be used for assembly spaces, but I do not believe that we planned on using them for both schools simultaneously. That is not something that we would typically do. Each school generally holds assemblies that are for their own schools. Do you know what the maximum capacity is in those schools, Jesslyn, or anyone from that team?
Off the top of my head, I can say comfortably that you can fit a whole school in for an assembly, and that was kind of the goal. So minimum of 500 students is what we planned for in being in those cafeteria spaces for an assembly.
Wonderful, thank you. The second question that we have is, what is the total cost of this project? And so we can, hopefully the WOLD team will be able to break that down just for Sunnyside and MacArthur. If we recall from the referendum, all projects across all 4 schools, so these 2 schools plus the work that we're doing at North Lake and Riley. That is a total of the 105 million from the referendum. And then there's additional, I believe 6 million that the district is using out of its funds to complete all of those projects. But Jessalyn, do you have a breakdown for these two buildings or the singular building for the two schools?
Oh, I can jump in there, and
Thanks, Fred.
it's about 71 million for the Sunnyside MacArthur site altogether. That's not just the construction, that's everything. So the total expenditures for the project are around 71 million.
And that is in alignment with what we, the breakdown was at the time when we went to referendum. Is that correct, Fred?
That's right. And we're working closely with Gilbane on monitoring the cost as we go through design. So at each stage of our development, we update our estimates and make sure we stay on track.
Yeah, we did our schematic design. We were right on track with our $105 million budget. We'll be receiving the design development drawings here shortly from Wold, and then Gilbane will do our design development, or our second total project estimate, and we're scheduled to complete that on November 18th.
Yeah, and so when I say it's everything, it's really everything. It includes the landscaping, and it includes furniture, it includes all of the costs, and not just the obvious construction costs, but all of the technology and everything else that has to go into making the school a great learning environment.
Thank you. And that answers our last question that was just presented as, did that cost include landscaping? And the answer is yes, indeed it does. Any other questions from our audience? I'm going to go ahead and close this poll so that I'm going to share the results. You can see we had 16 parents and guardians. We had 1 community member and 32 staff members joining us tonight. I also want to share that our presentation this evening was recorded, so we will be posting this as well out onto our website. So if you have friends, neighbors, other faculty, staff members that were unable to join us this evening, they can watch the recording of this webinar as well. And we will have many more opportunities in the future to continue to share the plans for not only these projects, but for our other projects that will be taking place as part of the referendum and commitment to the community. So if there are no further questions, again, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I want to thank our team from Wold and our team from Gilbane for facilitating this event for us and giving everyone something really, really exciting to look forward to, especially during a very challenging time that we are currently in. We not only look forward to being back in person, hopefully, in the coming years, but also to be in these amazing facilities that will be built for us. So thank you all so much. Again, we are going to continue to share information. You can always visit our website. We keep that up to date and we present regularly to the board. So please always stay tuned, and we are always welcome for questions that anyone may have. But thank you all again and have a wonderful evening.